Now, the state of Post Malone's career. The man Post Malone recently made a comeback to the industry with a new album. The album hasn't been doing that good in comparison to his last drop, so I wanted to give my take on the performance of it, his career overall, and some other things related to Post. With that being said, let's talk about it. Now, Post Malone, a name I think everyone recognizes at this point, an artist who I would consider a heavy hitter in the music industry. The amount of hits Post Malone has under his belt, it's kinda crazy. I wanted to talk a little bit about this new album he dropped on June 3rd. The album is titled 12 Carat Toothache. It's of course the follow-up to his very successful Hollywood's Bleeding album that dropped back in September 2019. So it's been a little while since Post dropped a full-length project. He obviously took a little hiatus, and that did greatly affect the performance of his album, which we'll talk about soon. But the lead single for 12 Carat Toothache was a record with The Weeknd. It's called One Right Now. It's as of right now the most streamed song from the project. But keep in mind, the song dropped back in November 2021. It peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 back then. Right now, Post Malone has a couple songs from the album that are rapidly climbing the charts. One of them is I Like You, which is a song featuring Doja Cat. That record is currently sitting at number 9. And then cooped up with the man himself, Roddy Ricch, that's currently sitting at number 12. Despite Post not dropping anything for a little while, I think the expectations for this release right here were extremely high, mainly because Post Malone has a track record of dropping and then literally getting X amount of hits from each single release. He definitely set the tone for these high expectations with his last drop, which was Hollywood's Bleeding. That album, by the way, according to actual stats, that was the biggest album of 2019. I mean, Post had the song Sunflower on that album, and then Circles, which was a huge success. Just those two songs alone contributed to a very big percentage of the numbers the album racked in. Now, aside from Hollywood's Bleeding, let's talk about the first week sales for 12 Carat Toothache. The album actually ended up pushing 121,000 in first week sales. Post Malone's new album 12 Carat Toothache debuts at number 2 on the Billboard 200, scoring the artist his 4th straight top 5 charting effort. The set launches with nearly 121 equivalent album units earned. So 121k in first week sales for Post. I'm gonna be honest, I was expecting way more than this. I think Post Malone's track record has put him in this category of artists that we always expect big numbers from no matter what. Kind of like The Weeknd, who when he dropped Dawn FM and Gunna surpassed him in first week sales, all hell broke loose and people started saying The Weeknd fell off. On top of Gunna outselling The Weeknd, I think it was a contrast between After Hours and Dawn FM that started this narrative. After all, man, After Hours did 444,000 in first week sales, while Dawn FM did 148k. So there's a big gap between those two drops, and it does say something about the music. The same goes for Post Malone in this case, by the way, because these first week sales for Post are his worst since 2016. That was of course the year he dropped Stoney. Now Stoney's first week sales were not high at all. We're talking 58,000. But then again, that was his debut album. He was still at that point considered a new artist due to his debut still now being out. Also, Stoney, despite not having very high numbers in that first week, did phenomenal over time. I mean, Stoney was such a success it ended up carrying Post Malone comfortably all the way till 2018 when Beer Bongs and Bentleys dropped. Now, Beer Bongs and Bentleys, which was his second album in the game, that one did some crazy numbers. We're talking 461,000 in first week sales. I think this was a moment that Post Malone solidified himself as one of the heavy hitters in the game, because the leap he made from Stoney to Beer Bongs and Bentleys was different. It definitely ended up putting Post Malone in a different category. The year before dropping this album is the year he dropped Rockstar with 21. That was on his project, and that greatly contributed to the success of it. Apart from Rockstar, Post had a lot of other hits on his particular project. Better Now, Psycho with Dollar Sign, Candy Paint, and Paranoid. And then as for Hollywood's Bleeding, we talked about that. But here we are today with 12 Carat Toothache, which in comparison to Post's other drops, underwhelming numbers. There's obviously a reason for these numbers. First of all, he did take a little hiatus, and momentum is the name of the game more than ever right now. It's becoming abundantly clear to me that taking a step back and not really dropping music as an artist in this generation in the industry is always a risk, and 9 times out of 10, like we've seen, it will have an effect on the numbers. It's only natural though, because things are moving so damn fast these days. Also, this album only had 14 songs on it. There's a strong correlation between how many streams an album gets and how many records the project actually has. Post Malone did actually drop a deluxe for the album, but it only had 2 additional records on it. Aside from that, as far as the actual music on the album, I actually don't think this album is better than his last, or the one before that, or Stoney. This is not a bad album at all, but if we put it next to his other albums, I would definitely consider this his worst release. And from what I've seen and what I've kind of observed, a lot of people feel this way as well. This album, from what I'm hearing, isn't as clean cut as the other drops. There's a lot of different sounds on here, which I appreciate, and I think it's dope to see an artist who's as big as Post taking a risk and stepping outside the box a little. But the outcome of him doing that, I believe, led to him dropping an album that just doesn't sound as good musically speaking, as his other ones. That aside, Post Malone in 2022 didn't drop an album that was as powerful as his other releases, but this is what I think comes with the game as an artist. I mean, if Post Malone of all people could drop an album and have his first week sales cut by this much from project to project, it could happen to anybody. I think despite all this, positioning wise, Post Malone is doing more than good in the industry. His album rollout this time around wasn't as solid as the other ones as well, so I think that contributed to the low numbers on these first week sales. Aside from the numbers and all that, Post Malone still a big dog in the mainstream. We all know what he's capable of as far as producing hits and consistently touching the charts. Post Malone actually did an interview with Billboard about 6 months ago where he was talking about how he didn't want to compromise his art just for the numbers this time around, and I can actually hear that on this album. To me, it doesn't sound like he was chasing hits on 12 Carat. Everything from how the album sounded to, the setup and how it was structured, he didn't really follow the typical industry blueprint for this album. And even though I'm not crazy about this one, this is definitely his most honest and authentic project since Stoney. And I think that goes for something, especially considering how big he is in the mainstream, because the bigger the platform, the more expectations people have. And for 12 Carat Toothache, I don't think Post Malone wanted to play into those expectations. But yeah, Post Malone in 2022, the state of Post Malone's career. Any thoughts on this conversation? Post Malone recently dropped an album, 12 Carat Toothache, that's not doing as good as his other albums. What do you guys think about these first week sales from Post Malone? Aside from the numbers, what do you guys think about the album in general? Do you like the music that's on here? Also, Post Malone in 2022, are you guys still checking for his music, or maybe are you not? Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and like this video. Let's subscribe about this.